wherever you are, in different countries, in different continents, in different time zones, wherever you are, we extend you a very hearty welcome. Green morning, green afternoon, green evening. People, those are joining us from Canada, United States, Latin America, a very warm morning, very happy morning. Hope you're taking care of your health, your wellness, your family, your neighbors, your society, your community, your civilization, whosoever is directly or indirectly in touch with you. We move to Europe, we come to Central Asia, we go to Middle East, we come to South Asia, we come to India and African continent, Mauritius, Seychelles, and other beautiful places on this planet. Ladies and gentlemen, during this pandemic, we know there are a lot of challenges to everybody world over. People are having a lot of difficulties, lots of problems. However, we all got to remain positive. When you're mentally robust, your body will follow. You will not have any difficulty. This evening, this morning, this afternoon, whatever time zone you are in, we have got 384th webinar during this pandemic lockdown, exclusively focusing on making education relevant. It's a global confluence of intellectuals for education, research, skills, technology, entrepreneurship, empowerment. There's a new education policy which has been announced by India's Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, along with the Education Minister of India, Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank, and all the stakeholders, those are in education ecosystem in India. This morning from America, this afternoon from Europe, and this evening from India and neighboring countries, South Asia, and all other places, we bring you a very special session, deliberations, inputs, valuable, whatsoever we can get the resources towards new education policy empowerment 2020 with the help of our Indian diaspora, non-resident Indians. This evening, it's a proud privilege. We have been joined by Mr. Rajiv Malhotra, who is a great soul on IT infrastructure. He's a consultant. And with him, we have got Dr. Vivek Shankar Natarajanji from the Lamar University, Texas. Both the dignitaries and distinguished guests, they are with us from United States. So we are going to talk about education policy and administration in India, a critical review. Before we go to our today's distinguished guest, let me just flip through some slides so that we all are on the common frequency. International Chamber for Service Industry, ICSI, since 1994. Initially, I was in the armed forces, and as a major, when I moved on deputation to the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, and drafted with my colleagues first MBA tourism curriculum for India and set up the National Institute for Tourism, first in India for travel and tourism. There was a great learning because a lot of people were coming from abroad to the Ministry of Tourism. And when they used to visit and we used to interact with each other, there were a lot of deliberations on medical tourism, cinematic tourism, rural tourism, NRI tourism, what all should be done, and how the younger generation to be linked with India's soil. And the children, those are born abroad of the Indian diaspora and are non-resident Indians, they have not seen India. They have not come to the soil of India. They do not know where their forefathers, grandparents, they basically belong to. So ladies and gentlemen, the idea germinated in the mind that why not to link with the proper confluence of all the non-resident Indians. And in 1994, there was a humble beginning. Until 2003, by the time we have moved in, almost about 2 lakh people were the part of the kitty. And then when the presentation was made to the Honorable then Prime Minister of India, late Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, and there were dignitaries from Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and a couple of others with our chamber, I still recall and recollect. In 2003, it was decided and it was deliberated. The kitty has increased. Instead of just a Punjabi Parvasi Divas, let's move to Bharatiya Parvasi Divas. Punjabi Parvasi Divas being celebrated on 13th of July. So the vision from the Honorable Prime Minister came, let's have Bharatiya Parvasi Divas on 9th of January, because that was the day when Gandhiji came back from South Africa to India. Who could be a better NRI? So during this pandemic, when 1.86 billion children are away from schools, colleges, universities, polytechnics, ITIs, educational hubs, doctors, nurses, paramedical people, they are doing great job. They are great warriors. But at the same time, our teachers, our educators, our entire ecosystem of the education, to keep the education system relevant, they are trying their level best to reach out every child, irrespective. They are in urban areas, they are in rural areas, semi-urban areas, far-flung areas, far non-accessible areas, all 12 months in a year. Everybody is trying. So my great gratitudes and thanks to technocrats, because they are the one, they are doing great job. So our chamber, right from March onward, has taken the journey. We are focusing on 3 words: making education relevant. So let's move on. From Indian perspective, we always talk about your culture comes first. That means this I'll take on a little bit. Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. When you talk about the whole world is one family. And what is the purpose of education? Is it cultural purpose, social purpose, economic purpose, or there is a personal purpose? Why do I take arts, commerce, or science? Heartiest congratulations to all the stakeholders, those who have drafted and worked for years together on the new education policy 2020, onto which now basically the implementation process is going on, how it is to be implemented. Policy made, will go to Parliament, becomes a part of Constitution, thereafter implementation, and then of course the most important part, monitoring the policy, how the implementation has taken place. 1947, India's independence. 1968, after Kothari's commission, first policy. 1986, second policy. Minor changes in 1992, and thereafter, now after 34 years, new education policy 2020 being given on 29th of July. Our chambers, since morning till evening, 12 hours, non-stop, complimentary, world over, starting every day early in the morning, Australia, Fiji, and New Zealand, moving from there to ASEAN, Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Brunei, and from there coming to Middle East, all the way Saudi Arabia, Doha, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, all the places being taken care of. And then we move to Central Asia, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, and then coming to South Asia, Afghanistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, and then of course, India. नमस्कार, प्रणाम, भारत के सभी निवासियों को बहुत बहुत आज की शाम इस संध्या में 8:17 पर बहुत बहुत नमन है और आप सब लोगों का इस वेबिनार में बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। जिस भी राज्य में है, जहां भी आप हैं, जिस भी स्थिति में हैं, अपने आप को खुश रखिए, खुशनुमा माहौल रखिए, क्योंकि when you remain positive, everything remains positive around you. That is something very important. So we go to Mongolia also, we go to Africa also, we go to Mauritius also. Last evening we were in session. So every day we are there. Our chamber is proud that we set up India's first finishing school network for service industry. And that is basically when you talk about soft skills and life skills, not living skills, life skills, life management skills. So we are happy, we are very, very happy because critical thinking, creative thinking, logical thinking, analytical thinking, interpersonal relationship, your etiquettes, manners, gesture, body language, articulation, communication, confidence building exercises, how basically to excel in any profession which is your passion. So that is the way we should work out, or whatsoever is your passion, that becoming your profession. During this pandemic, Our chamber has taken only two agendas: youth empowerment and teachers empowerment. Now, children were telling us, teachers were telling us that you have got all the programs in English, and there are 25 webinars per week we are holding at this point of time. So children told us 400 million plus population. All the way when you talk about majority of states, they said, आपका कोई भी प्रोग्राम हिंदी में क्यों नहीं है? सारे ही कार्यक्रम अंग्रेजी में हैं। तो लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन, भाइयों और बहनों, आपके लिए एक विशेष कार्यक्रम का आयोजन किया गया। 12:30 बजे से दोपहर के 1:30 बजे तक रोजाना क्या चाहती है आज की युवा पीढ़ी, क्या चाहते हैं आज के यूथ, व्हाट डज टुडेज यूथ वांट, आपका जुनून क्या है। एंड नथिंग इज इम्पॉसिबल ऑन दिस प्लैनेट दैट वी टेक एवरी डे एट 12:30। हिंदी में बात करूंगा क्योंकि ये प्रोग्राम हिंदी में होता है। जीवन संचालन कौशल। तो सभी बच्चों को बहुत बहुत आमंत्रण, निमंत्रण, आइए इस प्रोग्राम में जुड़िए। और कोई जूम का पासवर्ड नहीं चाहिए, पूरे 25 वेबिनार के लिए कोई पासवर्ड नहीं चाहिए। मॉर्निंग टिल इवनिंग कोई भी प्रोग्राम, कभी भी आइए, कभी भी जाइए। यू हैव टू जस्ट कम ऑन द यूट्यूब चैनल GS Motivator, that's all. Just come and like you see any movie, just come over there. Every day at 3 o'clock, we have got teachers empowerment program and teachers deliberation. And every day we have got a new theme, every day. Every Friday evening, we take you to Singapore and we are talking about water saving strategies, water management strategies. Every Saturday evening, we talk about Ayurveda, yoga, meditation, naturopathy, nutrition, organic. And yesterday we were talking about different type of arthritis. What is the prevention? What is the cure? And that we bring to you every Saturday Indian Standard Time, 6:30 p.m. Every Sunday morning, we take you, the doors of Universal Studios open up in California. Right over there in front is Woodbury University, Burbank in California, Los Angeles, and Professor Satinder Dhiman from the Woodbury University, our past president, he comes. विद्या से अध्यात्म विद्या की ओर, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता रेलेवेंट विद टुडेज एजुकेशन सिस्टम। और शंकराचार्य और जो भारत के प्रिंसिपल उपनिषद हैं, उनके अंदर क्या क्या कहा गया है और उसका एजुकेशन के साथ रेलेवेंस क्या है। 3 p.m. on Sunday we take you to ASEAN. Today we had a wonderful deliberations, and today the entire synergy was between India and ASEAN, synergy of education, research, innovation, student exchange, faculty exchange, IT collaboration. And just before this program, I finished at 7 p.m. Indian Standard Time, micro, small, and the medium enterprise. The chairman and the managing director, when you talk about NSIC, the former chairman over there, he's the person who took the journey ahead. And we had a wonderful deliberations today. It was a 2-hour session, and there was a gentleman who talked about the food, agro, food processing, and a lot of other things when you talk about related to that. So this is the complete canvas, ladies and gentlemen, when I talk about. And now, Sunday evening, 8 p.m., with our brothers and sisters, those have gone globally, they have worked very hard, they are bringing proud to India. So we are proud that our brothers and sisters are doing great job. I'm thankful to Professor Vivek Natarajan, he is doing great job. So ladies and gentlemen, basic food. Our chamber has carried out the research right from 25th of March onward. And the survey which has come out and the synthesis which we have carried out is B2B is no more business to business. You should term it and now relog it back to basics of life. B2B is back to basics. सादा भोजन, सादा जीवन, ऑर्गेनिक खेती, अपनी स्वास्थ्य का ख्याल रखो, अर्न एंड लर्न, जैसे फॉरेन कंट्री में होता है, पार्ट टाइम जॉब कीजिए, साथ में पढ़ाई कीजिए, सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट. So that is the way we all got to move on, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever human mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. I think all of us together, let's make education relevant. This evening, it's a proud privilege. We have been joined by Mr. Rajiv Varma ji, the IT infrastructure consultant, Houston, Texas. I've taken this from his LinkedIn. Over 26 years of experience in operating system engineering, system administration, and operations support, leveraging strengths in Unix, AIX, Solaris, and Linux, as well as building and deploying golden images. Expertise in conceptualization, planning, design, budgeting, implementation, operation, and maintenance in multiple areas, including a couple of areas I've given over here. Take charge, professional with excellent communication, analytical and troubleshooting skills, able to manage multiple projects and serve in a team leadership role or as an individual contributor to meet objectives within tight deadlines. Core competence and technical skills when you talk about business processes, methodologies, operating systems, hardware, and a couple of other areas. I think the whole canvas, you can paint it with the different colors, the kind of expertise he holds. And I've been briefed by Professor Vivek Natarajanji in detail about this legend, this celebrity who is joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, this program is going live on the YouTube, GS Motivator. So these details would be available because it's a live program. You can see any point of time and you can get in touch with him. Dr. Vivek Shankar Natarajanji, he is a professor of marketing at the Lamar University, Texas. And he is a professor of marketing, doing a wonderful job. He has got great roots with Punjab because he did his MBA in international business from Punjab University. And thereafter, he moved to United States in Texas, and he did his doctorate, his PhD over there. He's one of the experienced professors in area of online education. That's what is the need of our today. I think one of these days we should talk about role of technology in higher education with him, and we should take the further details, and we should talk about, because online education, digital education, flip learning, digital learning, outside classroom learning, blended learning, outside four walls learning, any term you want to give it, that all can be given, ladies and gentlemen. With these words, join me in extending a very warm welcome to both the dignitaries, those are joining us this evening and they're with us. It's a great pleasure. It's a great pleasure and hearty welcome to Rajiv Varma ji. It's a pleasure to have you with us over here this evening. And I would request Dr. Vivek Shankar Natarajanji to say a few words, and thereafter we go on to our today's presentation.
Yeah, so namaste, thank you very much. And when you introduced Rajiv ji, you used the word Rajiv Malhotra, although Rajiv Malhotra is also a very celebrity, but Rajiv Varma is a celebrity in his own name. And Rajiv, borrowing from Rajiv Malhotra, he talks about a term called intellectual Kshatriya, basically people who are fighting for creating the dharmic narrative in the social sciences. And to me, if you talk about the word intellectual Kshatriya, the person who is a personification of that construct is Rajiv Varma ji. So in a way, there's actually a connection, but I know Rajiv Varma ji for the last 14 years, ever since the time I landed in the city of Houston, after starting my job at Lamar University, I've been part of his network. And for a long time, he has been a one-man army. He has been doing, we used to have monthly meetings on creating dharmic alternatives. And he's been running a conference called the Human Empowerment Conference for a long time. Again, remember, I'm not even talking about his IT skills because that's kind of self-explanatory. But he has been plowing sometimes a lone furrow and trying to create a group of intellectuals who can look at social problems in India and across the world using dharmic lens. So to me, that's a big, it's not been easy. It's been something he has been doing by using resources from his own pocket, He's not done any fundraising. So that is a testimony to the fact that he's a soldier for Dharma. That is one thing. And the other area that I've become very close with Rajiv ji is he's been big on creating opportunities for our children to learn about the Hindu samskars. So every winter he does the Hindu samskar camp, and he has been inviting some of us to come and be faculty. Especially gives a lot of emphasis on karam kand, rituals, which many people don't. And the other area we are really collaborating hard is the area of Loka Dharma. How do we bring Dharma into lives of people? So last week I could not be live because we were doing a Go Puja for Gopashtami. And we will be doing, we are also looking at a Van Mahotsav planting trees. So the point is we are trying to bring, as the Supreme Court of India rightly observed, that the Hinduism is a way of life. And Rajiv Varma ji is really trying to put that philosophy into action. And so how do we teach Dharma to our kids using the way of life? So that's about the introduction to Rajiv ji. So he has made a wonderful PowerPoint presentation. I wish that all of us pay attention. It's very this is coming from deep hard work. He's a grassroots man. So please, all attention. Rajiv ji, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Now, let me once again, as the elder brother, extend a warm welcome to Rajiv Varma ji. And we look forward to your most valuable inputs this morning, this afternoon, this evening. Your mic is mute. Your mic is mute.
Yeah, namaskar everybody. Namaskar Dr. Sharma, Dr. Natarajan, and all the viewers. And it's really a great pleasure to be in company of such distinguished academicians, activists, and other leaders in this education field. And I consider it as a privilege to share my thoughts on education policy in India. I will not be able to cover almost everything relating to the whole National Education Policy 2020, but let me hasten to add that this has been a very revolutionary step forward on an issue that has been stagnating for a long time. And from when I say a long time, it's been since independence. So we are looking at 7 decades of stagnation. So I'll get down to the very bottom of what this whole discourse and a discussion is all about. Education in the Indian or the Indic context, just like Professor Natarajan was saying, how to bring dharma to our lives. So we have conceived a process or a framework of lok dharma. So in the Indic context, these various practices, including, by the way, yoga or anything that you see classified as Indian religion, unfortunately, that word has stuck, and that includes what is known as Vedic or and also Buddha and Jaina and what have you. So if you look at classical India, I don't call it ancient India, I say classical India, because some of those practices still exist. The pursuit of knowledge itself is the overarching goal of life and even beyond life, and it transcends one life to another. And that pursuit of knowledge, that knowledge is both the what is the physical world that we see, and then let us call the non-physical world that is also associated with it. So education in ancient India comprised of both of these components. So when we talk about, let's say, Brahmagupta or all our rishis and people like Sushruta, who came up with this medical technology of his time, their pursuit of their skills or knowledge had both dimensions to it. This is for the people who are more attuned to Western scientific method, may not immediately appreciate or comprehend it. But when our ancient philosophers or darshaniks used to pursue a subject, they were not only pursuing the physical, but they were also pursuing what is known as a spiritual world. But in our system, the classical Indian system, um, there was no dichotomy between the physical and the non-physical. So that is basically the roughly
sorry to interrupt you. We typically use the word physical and metaphysical. Just
metaphysical, right. So I'm trying to keep the terminology as simple as possible. So I'm building the background for the basis of the critical review of education that we have today. So in classical India, we had the Gurukul system where the teacher and the student, that relationship was autonomous. Like there was no interference from the state, and that is the monarch or other forms of government. Uh, there was complete decentralization. There was no even in the large empires, it was not as if the education policy was dictated from Patliputra. Okay, and these data points are very, very important to understand in the context of education today. Um, then came the two periods of foreign occupation and colonialism, and both transformed the education system in India. And we have inherited both of them in to a great degree, especially during the period of British occupation, but also during Islamic occupation. So during Islamic occupation, the madrasa system was introduced. First, there was, and this is not listed on the slide, but during Islamic occupation, the first, there was the Persian system that was introduced, and then after that, it was followed by the Turkish one that the Mughal rulers introduced, or their helpers and their Maulvis and all. And that some of that system still exists. And many of our generation may not know that right before independence, there was a lot of the Islamic education system that was being partaken or being used by the majority population, and it was like the establishment of that time. Then, of course, came the British occupation, and with that introduced the education system that we have today. So I built this background in view of how to derive a particular position as of today, and the public policy and the administration that gears up to solve that problem. So from in classical India, the objective of life itself was knowledge. But when came the foreign occupation, these two periods, the people who occupied India were driven by a dogma, like whatever that was. That was the dogma from their various scriptures. So madrasa education is not the same as Gurukul education. In Gurukul education, the teacher and the student used to sit and debate. In madrasa education or in a seminary, there's no debate because everything is set for you. There's a teacher who dictates and a student just takes it. So these are two different views of knowledge or basic epistemology, so to speak. The problem of current day education in India is based in this background that we see today. The education system that we inherited from the British and earlier during the Islamic occupation is geared towards somebody or the student learning something where there is no very little scope for dissent or debate. Uh, you are just given a certain a discipline, or let's say some information, and you are supposed to grasp it. You cannot challenge.
Varmaji,
That is the
Varmaji,
nature.
Varmaji, should we take questions at the end, or should we clarify here only?
Now we will take questions at the end because I'm
Okay,
building
okay,
this
okay, okay.
pretext for that.
Only one
So
clarification they wanted. Somebody was asking, so I just thought
yeah,
the
yeah, sure,
decentralization and institutional autonomy.
right,
Decentralization and institutional autonomy. So somebody asked me that today also education is a state subject, not a central government subject. The
right,
central government just makes a policy and gives it to the state. It is up to
right.
the state how much do they really implement a portion which is given as a policy framework.
Very
So
fair question.
in this context, somebody has asked me, and he's a professor, and he's asking, could you be kind enough to elaborate for a minute what is your interpretation on decentralization and institutional autonomy in the context of classical India?
Yeah. So in classical India, education, and I'll answer that question now. In classical India, there is a wonderful book by A.S.L. Taker, who has gone into uh, the educational system that existed in let's say pre-Islamic invasion period. And there is a book and work done by Dharampal, which goes into the education
Yes.
system that had existed right before the arrival of the British. When we say decentralization and institutional autonomy, so let us say Nalanda University or Vikramshila or Rodantpuri or any of those places, or Takshashila, it was not as if it was being run from Patliputra, or even the you said the current education policy. The central government is just producing the framework, and it's up to the states. But even the state control or the control of the education policy at the state level is centralization. It should typically be district level that should be regulating at least the primary and the secondary education, and implementing or implementation can be done by the local school systems. Uh, Here in the US, I'll give you the US example. Um, the what is in India, what is done by central government is the same is done by the state government here in the US. In the US, it is the let us say I'm in the state of Texas. So it's the that National Education Policy 2020 that is being produced by Government of India. The equivalent of that is being put up by the government in Austin, Texas,
Hmm.
and that education policy is given to, or it is just as the same relationship. It is they're available for various school districts to implement. So what you see in India is still centralized to a great extent. After all, running education in, say, district of Mirzapur, the Lucknow is now dictating that how to teach, what to teach, and how to manage your school system. You have to uh, ask this question: aren't there are enough teachers or qualified people in district of Mirzapur who can run the at least the primary and secondary education? And compare that with I've given you two examples. Classical India, you can go through ASL Taker's book to get a view. and what it exists today in, let us say, the United States. Federal government here does not dictate education policy. There is a Department of Education, but all they give is grants and do some minor exercise some minor powers. What the framework is set by the state governments, and it's the locals who implement education policy. So I hope I answered that question.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So let's quickly go to there was this very important minutes of meeting that was discussed in the British Parliament. Everybody is very familiar with it. Was given by Lord Thomas Babington Macaulay on 2nd February 1835. I will just read some excerpts from this. And the reason I'm bringing this is because there is a direct relationship between the policy that was set in 1835 and the education system that exists in India today. And there is a direct derivation of the challenges that we have. Okay. So one of the, I list couple of quotes, and one of them relates to the rejection of Indian languages in the delivery of education. And if you read that quote from Lord Macaulay, he is rejecting instruction in Indian languages because he believes that they are inferior in every other way compared to English. And there is that whole minutes of education that he presented in the British Parliament, or what is available in public domain, clearly lists what his objectives were, what are the prejudices that he had, and the kind of education system that he advocated. And he had the same prejudice against Arabic as well, and Persian as well. So there was this notion of European superiority that was injected into the education policy of that time, and the education system that was put forward or advanced by the British contained these different elements. So outright, in fact, he was responding to a proposal where the education would be done, or Sanskrit would be used in the colleges and universities, and he outright rejected that he said that these works of these natives are not up to the standard. So that is the Bij mantra, so to speak, that he used, and the British colonialists used to set up what is the education system we see in India today. And he was very clear that he and his quote, and this quote I will quote directly. So he says that we must at present do our best to form a class who may be interpreters between us and the millions whom we govern. A class of persons Indian in blood and color, but English in tastes, in opinions, in morals, and in intellect. So in today's education context, we are still, or in India, we are still producing that class that is the middle layer, or the interpreters between the English speaking or let us say the rulers of today, and the millions and millions and billion plus people who do not speak English. And it's as simple as that. We can see that in the way our higher education is delivered. We see that in the class of people, the bureaucrats, or any civil services that you take, judiciary, and it's not to say that we haven't made progress. We have made enormous progress, since independence. Lot of places, Indian languages are being used, but we haven't done, like, we have waited 70 plus years, and we don't have that good calibration of um, the sense of freedom that brings that should bring a change in policy. So the British put in a system that benefited them, but what they did has led to the situation today. So unless we look at this, these imperatives, we'll not be able to move forward in our discourse. Now, I'm not going to claim that the current education policy contains all of this. In fact, far from it. So that is the basis of this critical review of even the current the 2020 NEP. So there is a fascination for English medium schools, and you can see in the NEP 2020 that that problem that has existed since 1835 has actually not been addressed. It is such a hot issue to handle that it has been left on the table. So what have we gained? That is the question that we must ask. Now let's go very briefly to the education infrastructure that was put together or put in during the colonial period. I just listed St. Paul's College in Goa because that was under Portuguese. But after that, missionary schools started coming in. Then one of the earliest colleges was Madras Medical College. Then there was this government college university in Lahore, and then followed by universities in Allahabad, Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. So a lot of institutions were built, but to the benefit of British colonialism. Now, it is this principle that if you are seeking freedom from a foreign occupier, and during that occupation, let us say some policy was put in to rule the ruled by the colonialists, it makes sense to undo that policy, because that is the goal of freedom. Why else do you have you seek freedom? You could just invite the lords and the earls and the British Parliament to decide the fate of our country by passing another education policy in British Parliament. Why do you have Indian Parliament? So this is the basic, or this is the basis of the review or critique of the current education system. That if you seek freedom, then you must seek freedom in totality. And if there was a policy during the colonial period that was put in place as a matter of slavery of a people, then it must be undone. And this is the reason, because we have seen the minutes of the education by Lord Macaulay. So whatever his prejudices were, and whatever of those prejudices that percolated in the education system must be undone. Even if something is beneficial, we can relearn that. If something is useful, let's relearn. But what was put in as an instrument of slavery must be undone. Hence, we should end this fascination with Western and European ideas, or any or unqualified fascination that we have. And a lot of us, who grew up in India, who maybe now world over, we still carry that fascination. And if you really look at European culture with a critical review or with from an index standpoint, there are you will get a very different viewpoint, provided you think as a free as a person who is free today. Let's leave that. Let's move on to role of the state. So I'm glad you asked that question of decentralization and institutional autonomy. If you look at the role of the state today, 66% of education investment that goes in budgeting from the state, it actually flows from the central government. So somebody has to pay the bills. And in India's case, Taxes are collected, and central government is sending this money to the states, and then the states send it to the school systems. So you see, the rupee that is invested in education, it starts from the central government, it goes to the state, and finally it reaches to the recipient. Uh, I'll compare that with what happens in the US. So in primary and secondary education, it's the school system or the independent school district that levies taxes directly and earns its taxes and puts it in specifically in education. There's no other, So it's not even the local government who is levying and getting revenue for investment in education. So you have cut down the federal government, you have cut down the state government, you have even cut down the local government. And there is a direct relationship between the people who are, and by the way, these are elections are held and people manage these school districts. They are collecting taxes and investing in education. That is decentralized. That's called decentralization. Uh, so if we design a new policy, let's say this NEP 2020, or maybe in the next round, whenever the time comes, we must accommodate these imperatives, which are what I would call is a freedom imperatives, that maximum possible decentralization, autonomy of institutions, and authority to the teachers. And this is very important in education policy of today. Many times you will see, let's say the national universities, let's say Banaras Hindu University, or even this Aligarh Muslim University, because of political imperatives, let us say you have to appoint a vice chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University who has to be a Muslim. Now, if you cannot find qualified people, what do? You get hold of a lieutenant general in the Indian Army. Tell me, let's ask this question. Can a lieutenant general in Indian Army run a college or a university of or an institution of higher learning? What does he do? Okay. Authority to the teachers means that you promote leadership from within teaching community. You don't import bureaucrats and some hotshot from another field and lord over your institution, be it your local school, be it your vocational school, or a college or a university. Promote teachers from within, and they will go and manage your institutional infrastructure. In Gurukula system, and I mentioned this earlier, that there was no interference. What is being taught by the Guru to the Shishya? In today's context, we see that there is a national curriculum framework. Doesn't bode well with this imperative. Why should the central government even develop a curriculum? If physics has to be taught as a subject, or be it history, or let the physics teachers come together and devise a curriculum. Why it has to be some IAS officer that has to build the curriculum for teaching physics, or even a judge, or even say a rocket scientist? Let's say Dr. Kasturi Rangan may be good in rocket sciences, but he is not teaching physics, right? It is a very simple equation. Another policy, because we have seen Lord Macaulay's intent at that time of rejection of Indian languages. Nowadays, what happens is, let us say even the government or some minister or some leader wants to even promote local languages, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Hindi, whatever. What they do is they take the existing institution and just inject some courses in these languages. What happens? Because there is this English establishment, they just overwhelm that, and that whatever is being introduced in even in local languages, it just gets overshadowed. Then they become, even if those courses are available, the students will just take them because they have to fill up their mark sheet or grade book or whatever. The fascination for English doesn't go away. So as a imperative of educational reform, that these languages must be separated from English within the in that institution. Doesn't matter if 10 students join or 100 students join and there are 1 lakh or 10 lakh students for English education. Keep that proportion, keep that two separate, because unless you recover education in your own language, that fascination and that subservience to English will not go away. So that is a one key parameter, is to you need to have institutions that separate out English from your own languages. These are I just present some of these ideas that exist today, and some of these are intractable. Um, there is a fascination for retaining colon. I don't know. This exists only in India, I guess. But let's just take it at face value, and then there is this fascination for retaining the Raj culture, the British Raj culture, and we can see today any legacy institution, or even in other areas, like there was this proposal to redo the Lutyens Delhi, and that was opposed because somebody did not want to lose that character. So okay, we'll take that at face value. But this is basically a compromise idea that might work both ways. So what I propose in this, or what I consider as a solution, that you freeze the status as of 1947, whatever institutions were built, Aligarh Muslim University, University of Calcutta, Madras, whatever, and their student enrollment at that time. Just freeze that and transform that to focus on studying the colonialists. So all these universities can be good humanities and social sciences centers, where you just now study Britain, or even America or Latin America or whatever. So you separate it out. Then whatever you did post 1947, you build new universities. That may be English instruction, because we cannot get rid of it right away. There is this question of managing Aligarh Muslim University. There's a lot of political push and pull. Okay, what to do with this? There is a certain need to study Arabic, West Asian cultures, Islam. Now, and Arabic language and Persian. There are not many experts available today in Arabic language. So these institutions, instead of being for Muslims, it can be for study of Islam and West Asian cultures. The people who are studying and teaching can be non-Muslims. Why not? The vice chancellor doesn't have to be a Muslim, right? When you study Islam as an academic subject, it can be a Christian, it can be a Hindu, it can be a Sikh, or whoever. So any institution that was formed or was put together by whoever, whichever ruler, before 1947, you retain the status as is. You just transform what that institution does. The three are Jamia Millia, Aligarh Muslim University, and Osmania University in Hyderabad. So the compromise formula is that that colonial legacy, call it colonial legacy, and put it to good use, and then build. After independence, what the policy was to just take whatever was there and then make it our own. And that hasn't worked, because English has remained, the British system has remained. So as a strategist, as an education strategist, you just if you are saving yourself from a wildfire, what do? You just cut off the trees in the where the fire is going to be, and you create like a neutral zone. So this is what that neutral zone is, so that at least we can develop education that suits us. Similarly, you have you build national heritage institutions. Again, any institution that was there from 47 and before, let us say Banaras Hindu University, or the, let us say, the new avatar of Nalanda University, Vikramshila, and several others. This is the opportunity to build our own education system. Now, this Nalanda University started, but again the same system. This Dr. Amrit Sen was given in charge of that during the UPA regime, and he brought in the same education system there, again in English instructions, and we haven't heard lately from there. But if Nalanda University is revived, that will actually look like University of Bombay or University of Calcutta, or let us say even Oxford or Cambridge. But the question is, was Nalanda?
It has been revived. It is
yeah,
revived.
it has been revived.
Yeah,
but
and
it looks like Oxford and or let us say it looks like Oxford and Cambridge or even Harvard. But Nalanda of that time was very far away from these institutions. If you look at the history of Oxford University, or Cambridge, or even Harvard. Harvard started as a Christian seminary, and Oxford and Cambridge also started as Christian institutions. And later on, they became the instruments of acquisition of colonies. And but Nalanda of classical India was a Buddhist institution where the Buddha scholars actually sat and learned meditation and Indic knowledge systems with their gurus of that time. So what is your intent? Are you trying to import Oxford and Cambridge as colonial institutions and bring it to Nalanda? Hence, we have this opportunity of building, and we already have Banaras Hindu University. We did have opportunity with Nalanda, but let us say today's government tries to revive Vikramshila University. The last thing that you want to do is to bring in Oxford and Cambridge business in this. Stick to your own genius. Teach Tarka, teach Darshana, teach other things as well. But in the like I said, that the physical and the metaphysical should not have any separation. Let the student be that inquisitor and use new or the classical India's system of education. And this is the window of opportunity we have. The medium of instruction, and this may sound very radical, and somebody can say that this is unworkable in today's environment, but you have to start somewhere. So medium of instruction has to be Indian languages, and especially Sanskrit. Sanskrit is a very unique language. No other language can match this. I'm saying this not because I'm Hindu or an Indian, but let us say even I come from maybe outer some other planet. If I find this language Sanskrit, and if I evaluate it, I'm going to find qualities in it that no other language has. And what is that? You see, the process of Atmagyan. Sanskrit is the only language which can be used to acquire that knowledge. Now, somebody can say Tamil also. That point is fair, but it's not English. The structure of the language is such. In Vedas, which is actually, you can call Vedas as a practice and a textbook of acquisition of Atmagyan, let us say. In Vedas, and by the way, the government of India has started the Vedic Shiksha Board also. Hopefully, they stick to the Vedic education there. But Vedas have mantras that are in Sanskrit, and those mantras unlock the Atmagyan territory of education, and it's only in Sanskrit. So if you are going to revive Vikramshila University, you can easily use Sanskrit as a medium for instructions. It doesn't matter if 10 students join or 20 students join. You know, in the when you are decolonizing or you are seeking freedom from a colonial hangover, it's not easy. You have to maybe subsidize the students or do whatever X, Y, Z. But please do not import this Cambridge, Oxford, Harvard business. This fascination of Harvard, which used to be just a Christian seminary at one point, this fascination must stop. And you can study classical texts. There are 5 million manuscripts in Sanskrit that are estimated. Who is going to study them? Somebody has to study them, right? So here is that window of opportunity. And you can manage these institutions by some national trust. So I just give a sliver of what is possible today um, in terms of uh, in terms of getting freedom from colonial hangover. Now there are within the context of existing institutions that exist today. Uh, it's not very practical to change, switch to Indian languages there. Let's just assume that these wonderful institutions that we have created will keep their medium of instruction in English. So this IITs, IIMs, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, there are, national universities, there are state universities. There's a whole population to cater, and these institutions can uh, 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 go on giving instruction and preparing for giving out, cultivating skill sets, and some, national purpose is served with these institutions. But within the context of these institutions, there needs to be autonomy given to teach whatever, to generate resources. Of course, the primary source of funding will be your taxes, channeled through parliamentary or state legislative appropriations. But within that, there is more autonomy. So let us say, and IITs have actually done that. There's and IIMs in their respective fields. We still, at least the director of IITs is not appointed. Some lieutenant general in the army is not appointed an IIT director. So let's thank the government for that. But by and large, professors from within the academia can be trained to take up leadership positions, and these can be operated as autonomous institutions at some point. There are some ideas. Now, one of the quandaries of devising this is politics related, like social empowerment, and that's needed. We'll not argue against that. Social empowerment is needed by backward classes, maybe women, and other sections of the society that may have been deprived or that were deprived of education in the colonial period. So some institutions could be just social empowerment institutions, but there also that stream needs to be bifurcated. So you could have a string of institutions that are focused as a centers of excellence, no reservations there. But there could be a national social empowerment institutions classified as such through an act of parliament that will focus on social empowerment and have reservations, whatever 50% or whatever Supreme Court allows. So we can have some middle ground there. But this English medium instruction is going to continue. Uh, so that ends. I'll end it here on this note here. That what are the foundation of decolonized education? So medium of instruction. These are the few takeaways from this presentation. Is that the medium of instruction, you have to introduce Indian languages and keep the Indian languages separate from English. Because if you mix English language instruction with the Indian language instruction, that English is going to overwhelm and you're not going to go anywhere. So you can start with elementary school systems in India, especially wherever possible. You can introduce this in elementary education, then move on to secondary, higher, and even professional and technical education. So as a IT person, um, I just want to put this thing forward on the table here for food for thought. People mistakenly think that English is necessary for modern IT. That is not true. Computers don't talk English, by the way. They talk zeros and ones. And in fact, there are studies done by saying that, which is basically theoretical at this point. But let us say if a coder or a programmer were to program in Sanskrit, the overhead of computational resources will come down maybe 90% because of the beautiful structure of the language is such. I'm just giving that as a food for thought. And I'm doing so just to end this fascination and subservience to the English language.
Would you be kind enough to repeat this point again, sir? Would you be kind enough to repeat this point, because some layman people are like us?
Right. So for running your or building your IT or computer products that we see today, programming languages, building of applications, or running your internet, you actually do not need English. English is not required. It is there just because internet was put together in the English speaking world. And then, of course, from there it propagated. In China, people use Chinese to operate some of the largest websites that have even exceeded some of the Western ones. Twitter, or of course, Facebook is the largest one, but like there is a Chinese Google search that is actually at one point it had more hits than Google itself, and those numbers keep go up and down. But the point is that this you it is we immediately think that somehow English and IT are associated with each other. That is not the case. Okay, you can easily do the same thing in Hindi or Tamil or Bangla or whatever.
And is Sanskrit somewhere beneficial in computer algorithms? Yes. Or 0 and 1 binary?
Definitely. If there are researchers who want to research this, and if they can devise a way to have a programmer write code in Sanskrit, then the overhead of running that code will drastically come down. That means you will have faster processing. That means you will have faster compilation, and you will have faster application building because of the nature of Sanskrit, the way it is structured. And Sanskrit is the only language that has those characteristics. But unfortunately, we do not speak Sanskrit these days. I'm giving this presentation in English, and that is unfortunate. But slaves have to be told that they are slaves in the language they understand, right? So, and that goes for me as well. So somebody needs to tell me that I'm still a slave of English. Anyway, so these are some of the imperatives of the education that is not there in the national education policy of 2020. So we still have a long ways to go. Now that does not mean that we haven't come a long way. We do have we have from 1986, the last time that national education policy was done. And now we have spent what, 30 years, more than 30 years.
34 years.
Yeah, and we have some semblance of retuning or fine tuning, but we still have retained the Macaulay education. That is nowhere, ending or in the near future, and the lacuna that and I leave this. This is my conclusion, that the the one single determinant to education reform is that we have to think as a free man. We formulate these policies uh, as if we are still living under a colonial English rule, and we are some lowly subjects that go to our queen and then say, oh, my bap, let me reform my education. That attitude will never get us anywhere. We have to think as free men, free people, and we have to look at classical India as our source, because that's what we have. That's our heritage, and we have to make that beginning. And we have to start using our languages in our instruction, in our education system, and delivery. Somebody is going to say that, hey, that's not going to give my child a job. Okay, that's fine. Let's take that as a challenge. How can we make our instruction in our language profitable, or that will yield some job for the student? That's important, right? But let's take that as a challenge, and that's where this critical or critique of today's national education policy of 2020 lies. That it has put maybe band-aids on little bleeding here and there, and we have seen band-aids all over the body now, but it hasn't changed the fundamental flaw or the lacuna that we have inherited from our colonial times, and hence the freedom is still not there. The freedom is incomplete. We must seek Purna Swaraj and not half-baked Swaraj, and that is the basis of this critical review. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Varma Sab. I've got few takes and few requests to make to you so that you can help us out on that. Uh, should we close the presentation or should we keep the presentation?
I can close it.
Yeah, then we can come, all three of us together and we can discuss it out. Now, let's take an example. Let's take few questions, and you would be kind enough, because it was a wonderful, wonderful insight which you have given to us. And we have received so many valuable inputs from your side, your hard work, your sincerity, your devotion, your dedication, everything we have got it. Thank you very much for this noble process which you have given. Now, let's come one by one. First of all, what exactly is to be done? What is your take on that? Because initially there was a language divide, there was a education academic divide. Let's take that first, then we will come to digital divide. So on that, what is to be done? The university and institutions where the influential children, rich children, others, those are going to such institutions where they pay a higher fee and they study over there, right? And other children, those are deserving equally, and they are into rural areas, they are into interiors, they are into little far-flung places. Should government take a responsibility? What exactly should be done? First of all, up to 12th standard also there is a take which has to be deliberated. Should government take a responsibility to provide complementary education up to 12th standard? First of all, because if the foundation would be good, then only the building or super stories or as many floors as you want, you can build on that.
Right. So let's say it's a very good question. Like, whose responsibility is to educate, right? Um, and again, in answering this question, I'm taking inspiration from classical India and also Dharampal's works, as Dharampal saw education in rural India right before the British arrived. So the whole society was involved in the education process. Parents were involved. Villagers were involved in that. Like, there was this stakeholdership that was localized. It was actually not the monarch or the sultan or whoever was dictating education policy from up above. I've already covered that. So if we take inspiration from that, then we can come up with some instruments. Let us say, and I'm just giving you just one of the ideas, is a group of teachers get together and they say that they are going to start education, schools, and then put these schools in a sort of a cooperative society. The way let us say the agricultural cooperatives work in today in the rural India. The state government or the banks, because these are teachers, because they are qualified to run educational institutions, they can fund that that particular operation. It will not be government owned. It will be owned and operated by those teachers, and they will deliver professional education. So they open up this sector. We already have private education like Ashoka University. There are so many other universities that have come up. Now, these are not like teacher driven in the sense it was some big businessman who wanted to form an institution, so they built all these private institutions. But think at the lower level and education reform. Let a group of teachers come together and start education cooperative as a professional education delivery mechanism. The state as well as the banks on the regular market can fund these schools that are teacher driven. So authority to the teachers and autonomy to the institutions. It's not the big businessman who is going to write a check to this institution who will decide what is being taught to the students and how it is being taught and how to run the institution. The teachers must decide. So we can make a beginning there.
Okay. Second take is, if we see from first century to the 15th century, there were more self-employment, community. When I say employment, means self-employment. I'm talking about entrepreneurship ventures. Father is doing a job, child also, family also, community also, small area, everything. There was no job seeking or something like that. The new andragogy and pedagogy and a kind of a term and a coining which has been brought into education system now. And second challenge which we have got over here, as the IT industry is coming, okay, whatever education is going to be provided now or being provided now, some of the jobs will not be existing by the time children will pass out. Third take on that. Like, let's take an example. Now, self-driven vehicles are likely to come in near future. When the self-driven vehicles will come, there'll be many people who will be at the age of 45, 50, 40. Those have done their education long time back. And now there is a challenge for them. Children are grown up. Parents are still dependent on them. House has not been built up. How will they go for? Where will they go? What kind of a job? So there are not going to be much employment and jobs in future. So how a self-employed, entrepreneurship-based education ecosystem should be built?
Yeah. Well, again, a very good question. And let me answer it this way. The learning part actually never ends. You will be surprised that what I learned in school in computer science in my undergrad and grad, it's probably 0% of that I'm using today, only because the field is changing so fast. In my business, the refresh cycle is actually 3 to 4 years. That means every 4 years we have to learn new technologies. Just like, let us say, server engineering.
Mhm.
Now, the way I engineered a server solution 4 years back is outdated today. So, what do you
Mhm.
think I've been doing in the last 4 years? Learning new technologies. Now we
Mhm.
have virtualization. Let us say we have a
Mhm.
servers hardware layer, then we have another layer of virtual servers, and then the applications sit on top. That was not the case 10 years back. 10 years back, when we designed server spaces or server farms, there was a hardware layer, operating system, and application. So we have introduced this virtual layer there. So in this last 4 years, even though I did not go to any take courses in college and some university, my
Mhm.
learning has been going on. That's the only way to actually retain a job these days.
Mhm.
So learning never stops. So actually, in the this national education policy, I really I would like to appreciate the planners that they have injected some of these points there that actually has kept up and really it will have far-reaching consequences like this
Mhm.
exit policy and there were another few things that are in there like you can do 2 years of education then go to work, join the workforce, then come back, like evening
Mhm.
education. So learning actually goes on and the jobs are changing. So what I did 4 years ago is not there anymore. And if I hadn't kept up with my skill set, then I would have been out of the job. And remember,
Mhm.
I'm competing against 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds
Mhm.
who have this energy, and they learn more things than me. And my only redeeming value is that I may have some experience that I can put it
So,
to good
so
use.
these
So
youngsters,
yeah.
so these youngsters, should they go for startup? Should they go for self-employment? Should they go for entrepreneurship? Should they go for stand up at their own instead of seeking a job?
To each his own. uh, you remember how the Facebooks, the Amazons, the Apples, the Microsoft of this world came into being. Somebody, whether it was Bill Gates or even the Amazon guy, they
Yeah.
all started from their garages.
Mm-hmm.
All of them have only one thing in common.
Mm-hmm.
They Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook from his dorm room.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Gates from his garage, and Steve Wozniak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Apple, similarly, Steve Jobs, Apple, and even the Google. And I still remember when the founders of Google had uh, posted their original algorithm of searching in one of the mailing lists that was going around, or there was some server there, and that's how they started.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody has to take the risk to get something new in the mix. See, right now, India is known for its IT industry, right? But do you know, or has anyone made an assessment that the IT industry as it exists in India today is more of a service industry? That means you are servicing Facebook, Google, and banks and this and that. Tell me one product that was developed in India.
I
So
totally agree.
you
I
have
totally.
you have Macaulay education actually producing the new indentured labor of the IT industry in India today. That's what we have. And I know
Mm.
it sounds brutal,
No, no,
but
no,
you have to be
no,
brutal.
no, no,
You
no,
know.
no.
So you have produced these slaves who are
Mm.
working and filling up the pockets of Zuckerberg and Gates and all. Okay.
Mm.
I want to have a Indian Bill Gates in Bengaluru or even in Puri or even in Sultanpur sit in his garage or shed or jhopdi and build the next Facebook.com. Okay. As educators, our goal is, or our task at hand is, that how do we, what do we equip this particular boy, kid, or a girl with, so that they can become the Mark Zuckerberg of from Sultanpur or Mirzapur. Unless we change the system, we will not be able to get that Zuckerberg in Sultanpur.
Yeah. Sir, the last question, very important, I would like to share with you. Let us take an example today. One side is the corporate sector, one side is the government providing university education system or school education system. You also made a mention. Let's take an example. Few of the corporate houses, they have opened their own institution. They have opened their own university. Now, when you look at the corporate sector and when you look at the traditional way of education being imparted or being offered, or that curriculum which is going to become obsolete or obsolescent, and at the same time, when you look at the corporate houses, the industry, and when industry says, hey, who is going to give the shot and who is telling to these university and colleges that this change is required in your curriculum to produce that kind of a manpower, which should be brought to our corporate houses and our industry. If we are telling them, then why not we should set up our own units? So IBM, Netflix, Google, for that matter, even McDonald's, all of them, they have decided they don't need a 4-year degree anymore. They are telling their own staff, you will become instructors. You will tell how the burger to be made, because you know actually what are the ingredients and what exactly has to be provided. Why should we go to these university and colleges? And there is a video, I'm sure either you must have seen already. It is a video which is going viral, every university's worst nightmare. The title of the video is Every University's Worst Nightmare. And this video is worth watching. And this is by Valuetainment. And the guy says that in future, when skills and competencies are going to be more important, and the new education policy basically tackles right from the 6th class, the coding to be taken, vocational to be taken, skills to be taken, corporate sector to be taken, everybody to be taken. So there, and when the arts, commerce and science compartment also being removed in the new education policy. So how do you look at the whole scenario, and what exactly final message you would like to give to the children of India?
So it's a very important question again. I wish we had more time to actually, because there are so many things involved. So let me set aside the basis of this question. So the corporate houses, let us say McDonald builds, and all these corporations have their own universities. Somebody's running some college or a university, and in India also now we have corporate houses. But let me tell you or walk you through the IT industry, some of the big ideas in IT industry. They were actually did not come from the corporations. In fact, the corporations or the companies who were doing business took up these ideas and then made it into products. So let us say browser, like Firefox, Google Chrome and all, right? The precursor of the browser was actually built at a university. It was not done in any company. I don't know if people remember Netscape or not, but I mean, that company is gone, but that technology was built at a university, which later the whole corporate world took. Internet. Of course, there are people claim there are two fathers. One is in Switzerland, one is in the US, but this whole concept of internet came from the from Department of Defense. in DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Administration, that US government runs. So military was one of the drivers for technology. This safety, that airbags that you see in cars, you know where it comes from? It came from Department of Defense here in the US. There was a product that they developed, and that was later imported into the car. The point is that we put too much premium in maybe corporates driving education. Uh, Corporates are utilizing education to build a marketable product, but the innovation may be done at some other place, maybe in your some kid's garage in again in Mirzapur. Okay, so the corporates investing in education is a good thing, and they will serve it. In fact, you can view corporates as another form of maybe capital colonialist, if I can use that term. But corporates will invest in something which benefits them, and which is a good thing. I'm not denying that. But when you talk about innovation, the basis of innovation, it may lie elsewhere. Let's not discount that. Now, now the goal of education um, should be the learning imperative, that you want to enable a kid to learn, and this is so my parting message to the youth of India. Just two parts. Number one, think as Indians. Okay, don't mimic the white man or the European or the American. Be yourself first, and then number two, innovate, innovate, innovate. Sit there in your garage or in your little room there, and just 4 or 5 of you get together and say that you are going to build a computer that will just use Tamil, nothing else. You can build that computer. It's not very hard. Everything is there in public domain. All you need is initiative, and then you can build that computer in Tamil. Okay.
Final take, sir.
Yeah.
What would you like to tell the Education Minister of India? Because the new Education Policy 2020 has come. What would you like to tell the Education Minister of India, or for that matter, even the Honorable Prime Minister of India? What would you like to tell? As the Indian diaspora, as a well-wisher of India,
as an activist, I have high regard for all the leadership and all, but leader and follower, these are two different things. They are two different kind of people. Personally, I haven't seen any leadership, or any bold leadership. Some, putting band-aids here and there is not called leadership. Somebody has to provide that alternative vision, and it has to tie to the freedom. So my message to the ministers, not necessarily education or the prime minister. I mean, these are big people. I will not go that far. But my message to political leadership is to think like a free man, and then go about formulating public policy, and that will fix everything. So there has to be some historical perspective that these leaders need to know, and that will drive the right public policy.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rajiv Varma ji. Have a wonderful day ahead. And finally, in a very polite way, I would like to tell you that in the armed forces nowadays, there are separate departments, like you have got signals, you have got engineering, there's the Army Education Corps also. Right. So the people who do their education properly, whether their post-graduation, their master's, their PhD and subject specialization, I think post-retirement, their services can be utilized wherever it is possible.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek Natarajanji. Anything from your side? I'm so grateful to you. Thank you very much for your efforts to get Rajiv Varma today. It was a wonderful deliberation. So much of insight I got from him. And I think the final take is, if you're Indian, think like as an Indian, think original, take something your own and take pride in that whatsoever you have got. And then in IT industry also, he has given a wonderful message. Don't assemble only, innovate something at your own, in our own country. And everybody has started from a garage in a very humble way. And why not take initiative in that? So finally, anything from your side? Natarajanji, you have to unmute your mic. You have to unmute your mic.
Yeah, yeah. Namaste to all the viewers, and namaste again back to Rajiv ji and Gulshan ji. It's a tough act to follow after that scholarly exposition by Rajiv ji, and I always count Rajiv ji as one of my mentors in this.
But we can convey thanks together to him.
Always a pleasure.
There is nothing to add. He has done. Sometimes these are the jobs that academics are supposed to be doing, but I'm amazed by the amount of passion he brings.
Yes.
He brings. Yes. So that's why sometimes you don't become a scholar just because you get a PhD. You become a scholar because you ask very good questions. And that questioning is something that is part of our Upanishadic tradition. So it is nothing new to any Bharatiya. So I am very, very grateful to Rajiv ji and again Gulshan ji. This cannot be just one off encounter with Rajiv ji. I think we need to continue to engage with him. I are also planning some academic seminars in India, which we will in US on the Indian political economy, and we would like to engage with you. So again, a shout out to the audience. If anybody wants to be involved in those kind of research initiatives, please let Rajiv ji or I know, and Gulshan ji, we will be in touch on this also.
Thank
so
you
with
very
that,
much.
Happy Kartik, such a beautiful, in fact, they say one of all the Purnima, Sharad Purnima and Kartik Purnima, because the weather is very beautiful. So have a good one. Rajiv ji, thank you for your time. Gulshan ji, thank you for organizing.
Thank you, Rajiv Varma ji. Thank you. Very kind of you. And thanks to everybody whosoever is a part of it. Green morning, green afternoon, green evening. And what a pleasure to have Rajiv